Talking didn't fix my trauma, but it helped me take some of its power back. Before we begin, I want to share a quick content note. Today's topic revolves around trauma and healing, and I won't be sharing graphic details, but I also know this can be a heavy topic for some. So take care of yourself and please step away if you need to. Trauma impacts all of us differently, and healing, it looks different for everyone. I'm not here to say that talk therapy is the only path or even the right path for everyone. I'm also not here to say that talk therapy magically fixes anything. Healing isn't linear, it isn't clean, and it definitely isn't one conversation and you're done. For me, talking has been a tool, sometimes a very powerful tool, but it's definitely not a cure-all. And I think that's important to say up front. But for me, the biggest avenue for my healing has been talking. I'm not fully healed. I don't think trauma really works that way or healing works that way. But at different stages of my life, I've heavily benefited from talking to friends, family, therapists, professors, group members, and my partner about things that have happened in my past and how I struggle. And today I want to share about how that helped me. I'll also include some research and articles in the description if you'd like to further explore the science about why talking can be healing. One of the biggest ways that talking has helped me was by turning overwhelming memories into something more structured and understandable. Traumatic memories often live in the body. They're sensory, they're fragmented, they're emotional. And when I talked about them, they slowly became a narrative. And a narrative feels safer than chaos. I also learned something over time. There's a difference between processing and reliving. Talking was healing when it helped me organize the memory to feel it safely and then move forward. It wasn't healing when I was just replaying it in my mind over and over again without integration. Safety and intention made all the difference. For years, I couldn't afford consistent one-on-one therapy, so I processed it with my friends. Especially in my early adult years, I was still even figuring out that certain things from my childhood were, let's just say, not normal. I would tell a friend a story and they'd look at me and just say, Janae, you know that was neither appropriate or normal, correct? And that validation was huge. It was very healing. And what it helped me to understand is to realize that the discomfort I'd felt wasn't weakness. It was my nervous system saying this isn't okay, even while outside influences were saying that it was. For some of the heavier memories, especially those linked to betrayal or isolation, I eventually worked with a therapist using EMDR. And EMDR helped me to focus on a single high-impact incident and memory and process them in a structured way so that they didn't carry the same emotional charge. It didn't erase the memory, but it reduced the power it had over me, and that was really important to my healing process. So let's talk about reducing shame and isolation. This one is big, frankly. From ages 8 to 24, I attended group therapy because, frankly, it was the only thing I could afford. And that, even though it wasn't one-on-one therapy, it was extremely valuable. There's something very powerful about sitting in a room full of people who say, this happened to me also. It breaks isolation, it breaks some of that shame, and it replaces that secrecy with shared humanity. And I will say that in my early 20s, I remember thinking, wow, some of these people are really struggling. I'm holding a job, I'm functioning, I'm not on medication, I'm doing okay. And looking back, as much as I don't like that I had that mindset, I see that part was part of survival. I was high functioning, but I was still hurting. Strength and unresolved trauma can coexist, and both can be true at the same time. At the time, it helped me to see that others had gone through similar trauma. And while I hate to say it, it really helped me at the time to see others doing worse than I was. I'm a little embarrassed by that mindset now, but for 20-year-old Janae, she was doing the best she could. And at the time, it helped me shift from seeing myself as broken to seeing myself as strong and as a survivor. It helped me reclaim that word survivor instead of being a victim. And group therapy gave me a place to talk without feeling like I was burdening anyone. We were all there to talk about our challenges, to hear other people's challenges, to discuss strategies together for improvement. And that was really important at the time. Another thing that talking does is it can help you regulate your nervous system. Talking about trauma in a safe environment teaches your brain something important. The danger is over. And so when you revisit that memory while feeling safe, your brain slowly starts to rewire itself. It helps move that memory from a current threat to feeling into something that belongs in the past. And instead of feeling like you're stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze, you start to feel grounded again. And ongoing one-on-one therapy was especially helpful for me here. EMDR and trauma-focused therapies really helped me to develop those coping tools and improve my nervous system responses. And because I tend to be an open book, I've also had countless conversations with others where we've talked about their strategies, my strategies, tools that we've learned together, and other ways of coping so that we can help each other. What's great is that healing doesn't always happen in therapy rooms. Sometimes it happens over kitchen tables or over a glass of wine with your friends. Another thing talking did was help reclaim my identity. This one might sound a little surprising, but in college, I took a lot of human sexuality and criminology courses. I wanted to, number one, understand abuse. I wanted to understand offenders, and I wanted to understand what happened to me. And in those textbooks, those people were often called victims, but in class discussions, we called them survivors because that is what they were. And that language really matters, especially when talking with people one-on-one. At the same time of taking these classes, I was waiting to testify against my father in court. So I was learning about trauma academically while living it personally. And it was kind of a really interesting opportunity for learning here. I had one human sexuality professor who assigned journal reflections on each of our readings. And those journals I still have to this day. These were places where I could write honestly, and her comments were really validating and thoughtful and very powerful. And talking and writing helped me to move forward from being defined by what happened to defining who I was becoming and who I wanted to be. I do want to be clear about one thing. I may be an open book. Heck, I'm posting everything about my life here online. But that doesn't necessarily mean everyone should be. Talking helped me, absolutely. But part of healing was also learning that not everyone deserves access to my story. Early on, I sometimes felt like I needed validation from anyone who'd listen. But now I choose very carefully who I share some of those most intimate details with. Safe people, regulated people, people who can hold the story without minimizing it or sensationalizing it, both. And the biggest thing you should remember is that you get to decide who gets to hear your story. Talking is healing when it happens safely. It can be very harmful when it happens in unsafe environments. And you don't owe anyone your trauma unless you choose to tell it to them. Over time, talking also helped me build better coping tools, challenge self-blame, soften my inner dialogue, and improve my relationships and my sleep. And personally, I believe that something powerful happens every time you talk about a painful memory in a safe space. I believe it becomes slightly less sharp, slightly less powerful, slightly less controlling. Exposure in safety, for me at least, reduces that sensitivity. And slowly that memory becomes part of your story instead of the ruler of your present. And at the risk of sounding redundant, I want to say something clearly again. Talking about trauma can be very healing, but talking to the wrong person can be re-traumatizing. Your safety matters. The timing matters. Consent matters. You don't owe your story to anyone, but when you find safe people or a skilled therapist or a supportive group, talking can really be transformative. Obviously, I'm here because I believe in the power of talking. I also want to say this clearly. Talking hasn't fixed me. I still have triggers. I still have bad days. I still discover new layers, and I have trouble talking to my husband when I need to confront about something that's upsetting me. Healing for me has been less about becoming untouched by trauma and more about becoming someone who understands it, integrates it, and isn't ruled by it anymore. And part of why I talk publicly now is because it gives meaning to me for what I went through. If my story helps even one person feel less alone, then something meaningful came from what happened to me. But healing is also deeply personal. And so I'm curious, what helped you process your trauma? Was it talking or therapy, writing, maybe your faith, maybe physical movement and exercise, or was it silence and just simply sitting with it? Or even just time? If you feel comfortable sharing, I'd love to hear your stories and strategies in the comments. You never know who might read your comments and feel a little less alone. And if you're still in the early phases of healing, I'm sending lots of virtual love and hugs your way. You are not behind. You are not broken. You're just becoming. And I'm glad you're here. I'm Janae Cherie, and I hope that my stories help you to tell yours. Thanks for being here with me. If you'd like to walk this journey together, you can subscribe or check out another video here.